My name is Matt Prouse. I'm from Mount Elgin, Ontario. This is my dad, Dan Prouse, from Mount Elgin as well. This is a 1975
Dodge Bighorn.
One of 200
and 61 built.
Yeah.
Do you know what number it is?
No.
No.
We're under the impression it's one of the only ones that is original. We've never done anything to it. It's never been rebuilt, never been pulled apart.
Did you guys buy it new?
Yes.
We've owned it since new.
Yeah. It used to be gold when it came in, but then it was painted our colors. I think it's been painted twice over the years, but it's only been painted just because you paint trucks, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and
the stripe was original, but it was that. So the poster you have, Dad, was what, one of the first ones?
Yes, the posters that you see in advertisements is the first one that went into production. And a guy by the name of Jim Rott bought it, but it looked like what this one did when it was brand new.
But the same gold color.
At the time, Prouse's everything had to be two-tone blue. So this, before it was even put on the road, it had to be painted. Or my grandfather wouldn't allow it in the yard. So
does the color have a name?
Waterfall blue and turquoise on the top.
Okay.
And the Cuban red frame.
And that's been family colors?
That's family colors up till probably 25 years ago when they quit making lead-based paint. So then the colors changed, and it was shortly after that they went to the black trucks.
The lead-based paint must explain the family.
You're not supposed to eat the paint chips, they said.
They're called chips.
I know. But that was original color. And then the stripe.
Ooh, that's a nice metallic.
Yep.
Very nice.
And these people here that did all the painting for us, they're also cousins, and they're also in the village, because in Mount Elgin, you got to be part of the family.
Was it your great-grandfather then who started the business?
In 1934 is when it officially started.
What did it start as?
Necessity, really. The story I heard was in the late 20s, early 30s, during the Depression, he was hauling gravel to pay taxes. And then that didn't go so bad, so then he just kind of got started into that. And then after that, it was all like farm, like co-op stuff, right, for small community.
Did he have a small truck or something?
Yeah, single axle. Was it, Pops?
Yeah, actually, they started with a horse and drayage wagon to draw gravel for the township roads to help pay your taxes.
Was the horse turquoise?
It would have had a turquoise belt on it. It would have been accessorized.
Accessorized.
It would have had red shoes on it. It was pretty minty.
So he started just by himself?
Yeah. No, his brother Ross started with him.
Oh,
for the first little while. And then he brought his sons in a few years, and Ross went on to do other things. But because it was a farm-based community, it wasn't long before he was drawing pigs and cattle and stuff like that, like more for the farmers in the local area.
Yeah.
And then it just grew from there.
Kept going. And then the stories I've heard is in the 40s, like they started getting obviously a little bigger, but the mid to late 40s, they started hauling draft horses to Thunder Bay. And then between us and Nils, we were the first ones to cross animals into the U.S. because they were taking them to New Jersey for slaughter to go overseas. Because after the war, obviously, there wasn't a lot to eat, so they were doing that. And then from then, it just kept... And then when we had the school buses? In the 40s and 50s and 60s?
Yeah, in the 40s, they got into school buses, too.
Yeah.
So
that's how my great-uncle and my grandfather met both their wives on the school bus.
Driving?
Yeah, they were driving. Well, It was carpooling. They were 14, 15, taking everybody to school, and then they would drop them off, and then they would go back to the yard and leave the truck, and then they would go back. Come on, it was...
I'm not kidding, they did. They drove the bus, parked it, picked up the local kids, and then because from the yard to the school was probably less than a 5-minute walk, then they walked to school, and then...
Because during the war, there was a tire shortage. So the school buses went out in the mornings, picking up the kids, come back, unloaded, and the bus went back. The tires come on the gravel trucks. They hauled all day, put them back on the buses, delivered the kids, brought them back home, finished the day out, put them on the milk trucks in the morning.
Because when things were rationed because of the war, you couldn't have enough tires to go around.
So that's what they did for years. Yeah.
Well, the war was on.
At what point did they start bringing on more and more?
Well, as the company grew, and then they just,
I would say about the peak would have been into the 70s, 80s. We had a gravel pit then. So there was a gravel pit, gravel trucks, and that kind of stuff. I think at that point, there probably been over 30 employees at the time.
You've done all sorts of things.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. The gravel pit ran into the early '90s, and then after deregulation, they also sold it. Well, I wasn't around, obviously. At that time, I was 8 or 6 or something. So then it left, and then then after that, the gravel pit and everything kind of disappeared. Things got really tough for a while because of deregulation, and at that time, my great uncles and my grandfather had no idea how to tactfully go about getting work and collecting work. Because at that point, it was all, I wouldn't say bought, but there was a lot of rules you had to go to in order to acquire business. So I always worked with a co-op, so then it was in the early 2000s when my cousin come back, brought in a computer and started doing the load board stuff. And then that brought it back around. And then when my cousin and myself took it over and started running in 2018, where we kind of took it on as our own because we had a big family meeting. So if you're in, you're in. If you're out, you're out. And that's when we bought it out. At that time, we were up over 25 employees as well, hauling freight. Now, granted, COVID didn't do us any justice, but that's life.
So how many trucks are there currently?
Currently,
I see you guys running down 75
Yep.
often.
Yeah, we run Hebron, Kentucky steady, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. We've got 11 full-time guys now. Yeah. And we just have a lot of really good drivers, a lot of guys that have got, like my dad, putting their 50 years in. So, we've got a whole bunch of guys that are into their 60s, late 50s. So we don't get a big driver pool, but it's hard to find that quality driver. So it's just, you just find the work that fits the driver.
Well, this guy here unloaded these trucks all by himself, and he's still here.
Because somebody had to work, kind of. All right? And that's why we call him Big Papa, because the man is he's just a big image of a person, right? Big muscles on him.
I'd have been out in the sun all day.
Yeah, great big smile on him.
For being red faced.
Yeah. Now he did have help getting him ready. My son, he helped Big Papa get everything. Son's 14. He's the 5th generation to collect a paycheck from the company.
Is he going to become part?
God, I hope not. Yeah. Probably. It's hard to say. He loves equipment, but who knows? You don't want to force things on your kids. But he loves the trucks. Yeah. That's original. All original. The only thing they did different with these used to be aluminum, but they painted them. I love the pinstriping. That's one thing I love about when Boston Trucker, all his stuff on that YouTube channel, all that stuff from New England, that area has all that pinstriping. I don't know what they call it, but I love that pinstriping.
And he's here for the first time.
Yes, he is. I got to meet him. I
Yeah.
got to meet him. He's such a cool guy. I haven't been to one of these shows in forever, and now I get to meet all these really cool people. You have to come back.
Well, I'm just glad that I finally got to talk to you guys because I see you at shows.
Yeah.
And
Well, you can't miss Big Papa, and you can't miss the two blues.
exactly.
Look
We'll
at this
do this
guy.
one in a separate video.
Yeah. The big Dodge. And it's such a powerful truck. Stands out in any crowd. People love the truck. People love coming over, looking at it, love getting in it. You've been in one before, haven't you?
I've been in, not running, but we dove straight into the story of the family business. But what's all the info on this truck?
On this truck. Oh, well, Jesus.
It's a 1975.
1975.
Prouse Transport bought it out of Shirks in Ayr, the Chrysler dealer. Because at that time, all the Chrysler dealers in Ontario would sell heavy trucks. So
Did you get a free pickup with it?
Not at that time, no. But there was a thing for a while. You bought a new Dodge heavy tractor, you could get a pickup, but we didn't with this one. So yeah, we bought it brand new in 1975. My oldest uncle, it was his assigned tractor, so he's the only guy that drove it and he also did the mechanicking. So it didn't get to use it much. There's only 365,000 miles on it, original. And other than the paint, like Matt said, we've never done anything to it.
What's the engine and transmission?
It's a 350 Cummins with a 13-speed and 4 rear ends, which was kind of common at the time. Very slow by today's standards, but very common at the time.
1900 RPM is 70 mile an hour, isn't it?
No, closer to 2,000 for 70 mile an hour.
But at the time, we ran a lot of trains, so we ran 70 ton. So that's what this would pull. When it worked to work, but it didn't go to work very much. And it's just, 350 small cam.
When was it retired?
The last time it was licensed was in 2001. Then in that time, we would still use it in the summers for a few little trips. But once they started having to do emissions on these trucks, that pretty well put the end to it.
Yeah, it wouldn't pass. So
there was a few things that may be done to a 350 that probably wouldn't allow it to pass. Smokes a little bit, only when she drinks. So
yeah, and it was just like I say, because it was my uncle's truck, and by the time they decided that it wasn't wasn't going to put it on the road anymore, nobody really wanted to sell it, so we just got kind of put it in the garage, and there it sat for the next 24 years till about 5 years ago I started showing them and getting them out and
trying to convince Dad to retire. This was part of his retirement. As going to truck shows and he can tell us stories about back in the day, and yeah. Everybody comes up. I remember these trucks, because you can't change the color. Like the colors, you see that blue once, you're like.
I was gonna say, if you ever grew up in Southern Ontario or Oxford County area,
Ohio,
like
she sees the blue.
See you on the road.
Yeah. These guys, but you go to a truck show down home and people come up to you and say, "Oh my God, I didn't think these guys even existed anymore," because they don't see this truck, they don't see this color. Like we used to draw a lot of coal off the dock in Port Stanley and Port Burrell, which is on Lake Erie, up to the cement plants. And like I've been to many shows in London, and people come up and, like I say, they go, "I didn't think Prouse Transport existed anymore because I don't see the blue trucks."
And they're not even like truck people; they're just people that were like lived on that road, and they're like they could just
remember the color.
Or they like blue,
yeah. So
yeah. Well, who doesn't? Yeah, it's a beautiful color.
Yeah, we, like Matt said, haven't done anything to it. It's just pretty much exactly the way it came from the dealership. So it's
a pile of fun. Got to go for a drive. Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah, I know you hate driving trucks. Oh, terrible. Yeah, you only drive in the first 2 to 3 gears, don't you? But you can edit that part out.